The town of Eldergrove wasn't on most maps. It sat hidden between misty woods and silent hills, where the fog rolled in so thick that even the church bells sounded like a ghost whisper. Locals said Eldergrove was peaceful, but it wasn't. Something was wrong there, something that breathed beneath the quiet. Every morning, the same thing happened. The people would wake, go to work, and act normal. But at night, they all locked their doors before sunset. Nobody spoke about why. Nobody dared. Then came Lydia Hart, a young reporter from Seattle who was looking for her next big story. She'd heard rumors, people disappearing, strange lights in the woods, and a phrase that kept showing up in old police files. Only the purest remain. It sounded like madness. But Lydia was drawn to it. Her life had been ordinary to ordinary. She wanted something real, something thrilling. Eldergrove was supposed to give her that. When she arrived, she was surprised by how normal everything looked. Kids played on lawns, people smiled politely, and the mayor himself greeted her. But there was a feeling in the air, a quiet tension, like everyone was pretending not to notice something right behind them. That night, Lydia stayed in the old Ravenwood Inn, run by a gray-haired woman named Mrs. Cray. The woman smiled too much, her eyes never blinking long enough. "You're here for the story, aren't you?" Mrs. Cray asked softly as Lydia checked in. "Just exploring," Lydia lied. "Then you should leave before the fog thickens," the old woman said. "This town doesn't like strangers, especially not after dark." Lydia laughed nervously. "Why? What happens after dark?" Mrs. Cray's smile faded. "The town remembers." That night, Lydia couldn't sleep. The fog pressed against her window, swirling like it was alive. Somewhere outside, a child was crying, but when she looked, the street was empty. Then she saw it. A figure stood in the middle of the road, a tall, thin shadow, wearing something like a mask made of bone. It didn't move. It just stared at the inn for what felt like forever. Lydia blinked, and it was gone. The next morning, Lydia went out asking questions. Everyone denied knowing anything strange. But when she mentioned the phrase, "only the purest remain," people froze. One woman dropped her groceries. A man ran inside and locked his door. Finally, Lydia met a teenage boy named Eli, who whispered, "You shouldn't say that out loud. It's the rule." "What rule?" she asked. Eli glanced around nervously. "Every few years, the fog comes thicker than usual, and someone disappears. Nobody remembers them the next day. Not their faces, not their names. It's like they never existed." Lydia frowned. "That's impossible." Ellie's eyes widened. "Not here. Eldergrove decides who's pure enough to stay. The rest vanish." That night, Lydia recorded everything on her camera. But when she played the footage back, half of it was missing, her voice cut out. The lights flickered, and in one frame, she saw the same bone-faced figure standing behind her reflection in the window. The next morning, she ran to Ellie's house, but his mother opened the door and said, "Eli who?" Lydia's blood went cold. There were no photos of him on the walls. No sign he ever existed. The fog rolled in earlier that day, thicker than ever. As she packed her things, she noticed the phrase, "only the purest remain," carved into her hotel mirror letters, trembling like they'd been scratched by shaking hands. She left Eldergrove that evening, her heart pounding as the road vanished behind her. But halfway out of town, her car stalled. The fog closed in, and when she looked in the rearview mirror, someone was sitting in the back seat. Lydia froze. Her breath came out in shaky gasps as the car engine sputtered and died. The fog outside wrapped around the windows like hands pressing in. She dared not turn around, but she could feel it, the cold presence behind her. "Who's there?" she whispered. No answer, just silence thick enough to choke on. Then, slowly, she turned. The back seat was empty. Only her camera bag sat there, its red light blinking, recording. Lydia reached for it with trembling fingers, but when she played the clip on the screen, her own voice whispered from the speaker, "You shouldn't have come back." She dropped the camera in shock. That wasn't her voice. It was Ellie's. Panicking, Lydia jumped out of the car. The fog had swallowed the road. The headlights glowed in pale circles. Every direction looked the same white, endless, shifting. She started walking. Her phone had no signal, and every sound echoed too long. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang 5 slow tolls. Then, through the haze, she saw movement. Shapes. People. Lydia followed the sound until the fog thinned, revealing the old Elder Grove Chapel. Its doors were open, candles flickering inside, and there, kneeling in front of the altar, was the bone-faced figure. Her heart pounded. She lifted her camera again, zooming in, but the figure spoke. "You came searching for truth," it said in a hollow voice. "But truth in Elder Grove is not free." Lydia's voice shook. "Who are you? What's happening to this town?" The figure stood, turning slowly toward her. The mask wasn't made of bone, it was made of faces. Dozens of pale, human faces molded together like clay. "I am the keeper," it said. "I judge the souls that remain. The impure are taken by the fog." Lydia stumbled back. "That's insane." The keeper tilted its head. "You call it insane because you've forgotten purity. You lie. You crave fame. You came here not to help but to exploit." Lydia's chest tightened. The thing knew her. "I'm not," she began. But the fog around the chapel rippled like a wave. Dozens of ghostly shapes appeared, villagers, faces pale and eyes blank. Among them, Eli. He looked directly at her. "You have to leave," he whispered. "The fog chooses tonight." Tears burned Lydia's eyes. "Eli, I thought you were gone." He shook his head. "I'm part of it now. The fog remembers everything." The keeper raised its hand. Only the purest remained. The air grew colder. The candles blew out. Lydia ran out the church, into the woods, tripping over roots as the fog followed her like a living thing. She could hear whispers all around her. "Pure, pure, pure." Her flashlight beam caught glimpses, faces half formed in the mist, hands reaching out of nothingness. Every breath felt heavier, like the air itself wanted to pull her in. Finally, she stumbled into a clearing and saw an old cabin. Smoke rose weakly from its chimney. She burst inside, slamming the door shut. A man sat by the fire. His clothes were torn, his beard rough. He looked like he hadn't slept in years. "Don't breathe too loud," he said calmly. "The fog listens." Lydia backed away. "Who are you?" "The last one before you," he replied. "Name's Garrett. I was a park ranger here before everything turned wrong." Lydia's hands shook. "What is this place? What's happening?" Garrett stared into the fire. "Elder Grove isn't a town anymore. It's a test. They say a century ago, the townsfolk made a deal. The fog would protect them from disease, hunger, death if they offered something in return. What did they offer?" Garrett looked up. His eyes were hollow. "Purity. Every generation, the fog takes the ones who lie, steal, cheat, or crave power. It cleanses the bloodline." Lydia swallowed hard. "So why haven't you been taken?" He smiled sadly. "Who says I haven't?" The cabin lights flickered. Shadows crawled up the walls like vines. The whispers grew louder again. Lydia's reflection in the window was smiling, though she wasn't. She stumbled back. No, that's not me." Her reflection whispered. "You're not pure either." The glass cracked. Lydia screamed as the fog burst through the windows, pulling at her clothes, her hair, her thoughts. Garrett shouted something, but his voice was gone, stolen by the mist. The last thing Lydia heard before the world went white was that same echoing phrase, repeating like a heartbeat, "Only the purest remain." Lydia opened her eyes to silence. She was lying in the middle of Elder Grove's main street. The fog was gone. The sun was rising. The air smelled clean to clean, like the world had just been washed. She sat up slowly. Her clothes were torn, her hands scratched, but she was alive. Birds chirped on rooftops. A bakery sign swung gently in the breeze. For a moment, it felt like everything that happened had been a nightmare. But when she walked toward the town square, she noticed something strange. Every window was boarded up. Every car was covered in dust. And the people, what few there were, moved like ghosts. They smiled when they saw her, but their eyes were empty. A woman sweeping her porch looked up. "Good morning, Lydia." Lydia froze. How do you know my name? The woman smiled wider. We all know you. You stayed with us. Lydia backed away, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. No, I left. I ran. The woman's broom hit the ground with a hollow thud. You tried to run, she said softly. But the fog decides who stays. Lydia's breath caught. What are you saying? The woman's smile vanished. You passed the test. You are pure. The words made no sense. Lydia stumbled backward, shaking her head. No, that's not possible. I'm not pure. But the townsfolk began to appear from every street, surrounding her silently. Men, women, even children, eyes blank, faces calm. They whispered in unison. Only the purest remain. Lydia turned and ran. She didn't know where to go. But her body moved on instinct through the market square, past the church, until she reached the edge of the forest. The trees stood tall and still, the ground carpeted in mist. A shape moved ahead, a man's silhouette. Lydia froze. It was Eli. He smiled gently, like he'd been waiting. You made it. Lydia shook her head. I don't understand. What did the fog do to me? Eli stepped closer. It didn't take you. It chose you. I don't want this, Lydia said, her voice cracking. I just wanted to tell the truth. He nodded slowly. And that's why you stayed. The fog doesn't hate. It judges. Everyone who came before you lied to themselves. You didn't. Lydia felt tears sting her eyes. But what about you? You were taken. Ellie's form flickered like static. I'm part of it now. The fog isn't evil, Lydia. It's balance. It keeps the world clean. Then the forest began to hum, soft at first, then louder, vibrating through her bones. The fog was rising again, glowing faintly with light. Ellie's voice echoed around her. You can leave, if you wish, but if you go, the world will forget Elder Grove again. The cycle will start somewhere else. More towns, more lies. Lydia's hands trembled. What if I stay? The air shimmered. The fog curled around her, warm now, like breath against her skin. Eli smiled. Then you'll remember, and you'll guide the next one. The keeper needs someone pure. The memory of the bone-faced figure flashed in her mind, the voices, the judgment, the fear. Lydia felt her heart twist. No, not me. The fog whispered in her ear, 1,000 soft voices at once. The purists don't choose. They accept. Lydia screamed as light exploded through the trees. When it faded, the woods were silent again. Weeks later, a passing trucker noticed Elder Grove's sign half buried in dirt. The town looked abandoned, the streets cracked, houses overgrown with vines. He parked, curious, and wandered through the ruins. Then he saw her, a woman standing near the old chapel, smiling faintly in the mist. She looked calm, almost kind. Hey, are you okay? The trucker called. Lydia turned slowly. Her eyes were pale as moonlight. Yes, she said softly, just visiting. The fog began to roll in again, swallowing the road behind him. The trucker frowned. Didn't even know this town existed? Lydia smiled, whispering words that echoed through the rising mist. Most people don't. Only the purest remain. And when the fog cleared, the town of Elder Grove was gone again, vanished from every map, every memory, every mind. Only the sound of a faint church bell drifted through the empty hills, tolling 5 slow times.